You are. Good evening, everyone. We're going to call the Board of Education meeting to order. Would everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, exits are to the rear and to the front of the building. Audience is citizens. Audience is citizens is an opportunity for members of the community to ask questions or make comments to the Board of Education. Please be respectful in your comments and refrain from making any comments in regard to staff or students. Since we have no audience here, we're going to move right along. I'm sorry. I already did.
Oh, I didn't hear you, sorry.
Okay. All right. In your packets, you have all of the minutes from January 25th, February 13th, and February 27th. Has everybody had a chance to review those? Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Did we just approve all the minutes, or what minutes are we?
Okay, I'll do them individually. I apologize. Can I have a motion to approve the special meeting minutes of January 25th as revised?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Anybody opposed? Abstain, okay. Is there a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of February 13th?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstain? Is there a motion to approve the special meeting minutes of February 27th?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Abstain? Thank you, Tracy. All right, we're going to move on to the report of the superintendents of schools. Mr. Reese, thank you.
So I have a number of things to update you with later on in the agenda, so I'm going to hold most of those for then. But we have had a successful start to our baseball and our softball season and our spring outdoor track. So we're very excited about the participation there. And we are had the pleasure of joining Melissa Knox and Austin Savini down at the Middlesex Shoreline Student Award Luncheon. to present them with the awards this year. We have many dates on the calendar in May, including our academic awards coming up. And we encourage you to check the website. There are so many dates to be aware of in May that to list them would not be helpful. So, including our May 9th Board of Ed. On May 2nd, next Tuesday, we have our town meeting regarding the referendum. And then 2 weeks later, on the 16th, there is the actual referendum. Hopefully that will move our budget through, and we'll go from there. So otherwise, there are a number of updates later on in the agenda, so I'll hold the rest of those updates for then.
Any questions for Mr. Reese? Okay, we're going to move on to committee reports, policy and instruction. Anybody here from policy and instruction? Everybody go?
We met on March 7th, and we had a very, let me just get to where I need to be here. Okay, so we met on March 7th. We had a presentation of our curriculum unit process, and superintendent presented the review process along with Ms. Cryan. And we also talked about the middle school trip to Six Flags, and that'll be attended by the jazz band. We also discussed the food service charging policy, and we looked at the revisions for that, and moved it along to full board for approval.
Fantastic. Anybody have any questions on policy?
Terry, you said that there was a review of the curriculum development process. Has there been any curriculum written that needs to be approved by the board?
We have not gotten an update.
Okay. For the record, I joined this board a year ago. Haven't seen a thing yet. It has me a little concerned. I'll just leave it at that.
Any other comments for policy? Okay,
Tracy?
business and planning.
Did I miss anything?
No, we had the book. I don't want to look at my notes, but we learned a lot about equity and inclusion and how the elementary school in particular at this point, but we'll go up in that. Am I talking about exactly the same thing you were talking about?
We had
So that's the one I'm talking about. When we saw all the books with different faces, and it was really exciting. And they have created curriculum that has been adopted by UConn, and they went and shared it with other school districts and are looking to move it up the ranks. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Excellent.
Yeah.
Is that part of the pre-K to third grade new curriculum that's being implemented?
Yeah, ish. Do you want to talk?
So I think it will be input for the pre-K through second grade curriculum. It's more of a study about what we need to know regarding those topics, and working with professionals in the field, including at UConn, to learn more about that. It's more of a learning phase. So the answer is yes, but the process that we talked about is not the added into the curriculum right this minute process. So the curriculum revision process is ongoing. We are in a very good place to do a pretty significant revision and finishing up that revision this year. It does take time, so we're plugging away at it. So, but it is part of it, yes.
Excellent. Anybody else have any questions for policy?
I just wanted to clarify, when you just said that the the ongoing process will finish this year, you meaning at the end of this school year or at the end of 2023?
So if I said we'll end at, let me take that back. We are making, we'll have a significant milestone accomplished by the school year of '23, so June, so. Which is, the majority of our units will be in a new draft.
Okay, and I only have one other question for policy members. Has there been any discussion in regard to AI and chat box and professional development around that? Are we going to embrace it, or how are we doing with any of that? That's like really coming up fast and furious.
It has not been added to our agenda. I defer to the superintendent on that question.
So we've had some informal conversations about ChatGPT. It's something that's out there. It's something we need to, or maybe I got that backwards. It's something we certainly are looking at. There's a lot of conversation around it, so, and how that affects us. I think from the people I've talked to and read about, it seems to be a different opinion. Some people think it's the scariest thing education will ever face, and at the same table, there's somebody who thinks that it's the next best thing, and then some people think it's just going to be a opportunity to not be genuine about doing resource work, making sure you document your sources. So it's a very much an open topic, and it's blossoming at the very moment. So you're absolutely correct in that.
Okay, business and planning, I'll give the update on that. We met last week. We went over food service account, how that works. We also went over a number of initiatives that are coming up. We also went over a warrant review and things that we want to see put into the warrant so that we can move forward with the approval process in an effective manner. Does anybody have any questions for business and planning?
I would just add that I thought it was a pretty productive meeting, and I was grateful for some of the stuff that Cindy brought. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, personnel and negotiations. Anybody? Eric?
We have had weekly meetings with the UPSU representatives. Meetings have been progressing well, and I can imagine we'll be bringing all of that to the board the full board pretty soon.
Okay, East Haddam Capital Improvements Committee liaison report. Capital Improvements has met and is working on a number of items for the track. Run into a couple of hiccups. We're going to be meeting on Thursday to go over those as well. The HVAC was discussed. While we did not receive the first round of grants, we are very optimistic that we are in a good spot to go out for those again, and we will be presenting to the Board of Finance the entire HVAC cost estimates and how we can accomplish those in steps. Did I miss anything there, Brian?
No, I think under HVAC update later on, I had just that we, the reason we did not receive the grant, the reason they specified was that they didn't like something about the certified estimator. So while that's a little bit frustrating, it's actually great news because that's something we can easily fix if they want somebody else to be the estimator. And that was something because of our time frame. We did have a difficult time finding somebody quickly. So as Ms. Stricker mentioned, the second round is coming. There were some really positive elements to the grant, and that was that a variety of districts received the grant, not just districts with heavy-duty needs. Some districts who are who do very well socioeconomically also receive the grant. So I think that bodes well for us. The CIP group will be making a presentation about that grant process on May 8th, which is the regular Board of Finance meeting. So again, another one of those nights in May. You'll can be out if you like.
Jim, you had a question?
Yeah, Brian, I remember discussing the HVAC and the estimate and all that stuff at Business and Planning. I'm curious, though, I'm wondering if I misheard you or either then or now. It sounds like now you're saying that they had a problem with the actual individual who did the estimate? Is that what we're hearing, or I thought it had something to do with the process originally?
So what we have is a little box that's checked that says professional cost estimate as the reason that it didn't make it through. That's literally all we have. So what I said at the meeting was that this was the first time the state in some of their documentation said you must have a professional cost estimate, a certified cost estimator. And I had never heard that language before in other building projects.
I remember you mentioning that.
And so my thinking is that maybe they have raised the bar on what counts as an estimator or something. We have been back and forth with the state trying to set up a time to go through this in detail. So I'm sure that will happen in the next few days. Fortunately, we have till August to get the next round in. So that's when it's due, and then it's the same time frame. We should hear back by December this time.
Thank you.
Okay, Brian Perry is not here, so we're gonna pass that up. Open space, Tracy?
We didn't meet.
Do you have any updates from Open Space about any of their walks or anything? How's that all going? Is that with Open Space?
Well, there are a bunch of different groups. Open Space is only one of them. We haven't walked. We will be. We do need to begin the process of raising funds again, because we're kind of at the bottom of the barrel. And we have a number of, Jim Ventris has a number of grants in, which is why we haven't walked.
Excellent. Safety and security, we don't have any update. Brian, do you have any update on that?
So we met. We have another meeting coming up. It's a very dynamic process. We meet, talk with everybody involved. All the people from the police are there and support us. Our security people are our newest additions, and so they've been very productive.
Any questions on that? Kira?
Did we replace the SSO that left? Or us?
We've been interviewing actively to replace the position, but it has not happened yet.
Rayborn?
We have not met.
Long-range capital improvements?
We have not met.
Excellent. We're going to move right along to old business. Discussion and possible action on the recommendation of the ordinance regarding Board of Education term length. Does everybody have that in their packet? Let's get to that. Do we know when the town meeting will be taking place for this? Has that been set?
So my understanding is that it will go with the same as the budget referendum. That's my understanding.
There's a meeting to discuss it next Tuesday, the 2nd, at 8 o'clock, and then it will be on the referendum when we vote.
Thank you, Laurel. Does anybody have any questions or comments in regard to the draft ordinance?
The only thing I would add is, having gotten some additional information regarding why it was arranged the way it is, it makes sense. I think 6 years is too long, it scares people off, and I think we should support it.
Excellent. Now, I'll just add, that the reason why it's kind of broken down and it might seem a little cumbersome is so that it evens off, so we don't wind up with a bubble year. So we'll be changing over from, the 6-year going down, as it states in B, that 2 members for a term of 2 years and 1 member for a term of 4 years. And then each party can nominate, 2 candidates for 2-year positions. So, has everybody had time to kind of read this over? Is there a motion to approve the draft ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Abstain? Okay, motion carries. Discussion and possible action on policy 3542.43, food service charging for the first reading. Mr. Reese, would you like to talk to this?
So this is our food service policy. We've been asked to make changes to this by the state to meet the current guidelines. And when we start charging for food again, because currently it's free, we will need to have this in place. The policy essentially follows the law, and we're being told it pretty much needs to say, be as it's written here. So it's not that exciting, sorry.
Has everybody taken the time to read the policy? And does anyone have any questions on this? No? Is there a motion to approve the policy .43, food service charging for the first read?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Abstain? Fantastic. Right, let's continue and move on. Okay, we're gonna move on to new business, discussion and updates. Mr. Reese, would you like to start off with telling us about the HVAC?
I would be happy to. So I think we covered most of it earlier, and essentially the overall project is approximately, if we did all schools to bring them up to air quality and cooling and building management controls, the price tag for that's about $9 million. So that is that's a significant project, obviously. If we were able to get the grant, if we were able to get whatever we could get into that grant, would be at a 52% reimbursement. So potentially that's a $4.5 million project for the town. The process of figuring out, the CIP is still working through the process of figuring out what exactly that looks like. There's a lot of different options, from the old, what I'm calling the old school chiller that pumps all the air, cold air through the building, to units that sit on the roof and mix the air from the outside. It is a little more complicated than it used to be from my perspective, and that they're focused very much on how much noise the systems make, and they're focused on how much outdoor air they bring in. So those two seem to be more important now, and everything seems to be going in the direction that they're going to expect us to do that. there are actually air quality tests that are added to our requirements coming up. So just, I think, because the state, I think, is realizing they need to move in that direction. So again, more to come. We need to work with the Board of Finance to figure out exactly what this looks like budgetarily. Just to be very, very clear, this doesn't affect, this is a conversation that's ongoing, and as far as I can see, doesn't have any impact on the referendum that's on its way in the next 3 weeks. So just to be very, very clear.
Any questions for Mr. Reese on the HVAC? Terry?
I did have one on this, on the financial analysis on page 2, if I'm looking at the right.
Page 2.
Under project savings, are they taking into account the rate of inflation in this projection?
So my understanding is, and I haven't found page 2 yet, so I'm just going to admit that right now. Okay, so that's something different. Oh, it is. So thank you for sharing. So that's something different that's coming up. I didn't think you had a page 2, but it's a great question in terms of, so the assumption was that we would have to start the project and price it out right now, and we'd be finishing it next summer. That was the time frame that the finances were done based on. So yes, for the next year. So if the next question is, well, would you have to update it and will it probably go up? It's possible if it gets pushed out a year, it would go up. That being said, HVAC systems, metals right now are ridiculously expensive and really hard to get, which makes them more expensive,
Right.
supply and demand. So it's possible it could get better, but I know there's some that would really hope I wouldn't say that. So, or in a that it could be in a better situation a year later. So, just because it's one of the highest demand for HVAC right now that we've ever experienced.
Any other questions on HVAC? Okay, we're going to move along to the athletic complex. Brian, would you like to update us on that?
So that project's up and going. They started actually a week early. We are having some issues, and I don't know that they're outside the norm of any kind of construction project, but we are having some issues of determining exactly how much of the fill needs to come out, how much of the topsoil needs to come out. There are some issues around exactly how the septic system works, and making sure that that is all taken care of. But our architects are working with us, CIP is working with our architects, and moving that along. So far, the contractor's been terrific to work with, very flexible, and seems to want to get this done. So it's moving along, so it's very exciting. So.
And just to piggyback on that, the septic we're talking about is for the athletic complex bathroom. It has nothing to do with this septic up here. It has to do with how it will be integrated or will it be kept separate. Is there any questions on the athletic complex? Okay, let's move right along to negotiations, please.
So, Mr. Anderson mentioned earlier, we are in the final stages with our negotiations. So I think by the end of May, you'll be looking to ratify a contract with the UPSU unit. So that's very exciting to have that checked off.
Any questions on that?
Brian, are there any other contracts coming up that we're going to be working on?
The administrator, the EHAA administrator's contract is on its way. So it has we haven't received the letter yet, but it's typically, I think, like a mid-August or late August deadline date. It's about the most inconvenient time frame for a negotiation you can find. For some reason, we always go early. I don't know why that is in our certifieds. So that's on its way, so.
Okay, 2024 budget.
So, and I'm kind of trying to catch up, and one of the reasons I think Ms. Stricker wanted us to kind of go through some of this was we're catching up for a little while, and I don't, it's been a little while. So, the Board of Finance in the end cut us about $75,000. So what happens with that is that that cut is basically made in general, and we need to sort out where it comes from. So as it moves through the referendum, if, assuming, you know, with all things go well, on the 16th, it gets approved, on the 16th. Then after that, the business and planning would work. I'll provide some ideas for where to cut the 75,000. And hopefully by then we get some good news about things that don't affect our program. You know, we also get better news about where we are exactly with kindergarten. We continue to have a very strong kindergarten number coming in. So I don't see that happening, but again, we will know more. So after the 16th, assuming everything goes well, we will decide how to affect the $75,000 into the budget. So I think in the big picture, it puts us in a reasonable place. Obviously, we'd love to have every dime, but you know, we also have to play. You know, we all have to take our cuts. So, I suppose.
Any questions on the 2024 budget? Okay. All right, we're going to move on. Discussion and possible action to reconsider the motion made on February 13th, 2023 regarding releasing unredacted information. I'm going to ask Jim Francesi to speak to this.
After we passed that motion, the board chairman was in contact with me and expressed some concerns regarding the scope of the motion. I felt it was pretty clear that we were only talking about financial information, and that was the intent. I did neglect to put the word financial into the motion, and so I agreed to rework it a little bit. And I did a little research in Robert's rules. What I'm going to suggest is that we use a two-part mechanism that's part of Robert's rules, and I'm going to make a motion to reconsider that motion. And if that motion passes, then I will hand out the text of a rewritten version of it, which actually limits some of the concerns about sharing information, and it also makes it very clear that this is not for, you know, general board members can demand that somebody ask for something. That was never the intent, and apparently one board member tried that. It will also make it clear that the preference is to shield students' identities when possible. And like I said, I'll pass that afterwards. So I would make a motion to reconsider that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstain? Okay.
In order to avoid any additional confusion, I typed this up and I'll pass that out now. You're welcome.
So Jim, I want to be clear, are you going to make a motion and this is your motion? Or are you discussing right now?
As I understand Robert's rules, we don't discuss until we have a motion that's been seconded. So this is the motion I'm making, and I make that now.
So you have to.
Do I
you
need
have
to read it?
You have to read your motion.
Okay, sorry.
I would like to make a motion.
I move that the board direct the superintendent to provide unredacted financial information for all checks and other financial business, including backup, when that information is requested by the board chairman or the board secretary or the town treasurer. There are two allowable exceptions. Personally identifiable information of students and families shall be redacted from all third-party invoices, and students' personally identifiable information shall be redacted for all special education work-study checks under $150.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Discussion?
I'll just make one point. When I am saying that personally identifiable information will be redacted from third-party invoices, that doesn't mean that the invoices don't get turned over. It means, for example, that if there's a transportation invoice for a special needs student, the invoice still goes, it still shows that it's a transportation company, but if that child's name or home or anything like that are on that invoice, those are the things that would get redacted.
Any other questions, comments? Eric, go ahead.
Has this motion been reviewed by anybody at CABE?
No,
Has this motion been reviewed by the board's legal staff?
I couldn't answer that question. I don't have access to the legal staff.
Mr. Reese, has this motion been reviewed by anybody in our legal staff?
The motion has not been reviewed by council.
Okay, thank you.
So sometimes the chair interacts with the council, so it's possible it's been sent to council. I don't believe it has, but council has not given their approval of it, which I guess, since you asked a question, that's my concern, is it puts us in an awkward place of that it's a legal question, and I appreciate the efficiency of this. It's very efficient. At the same time, it puts us between what council has stated in the past and what you're voting on. So that's a very awkward place to be in as an administration.
I understand what you're saying. It puts us in the same place as approximately 168 other districts in the state. There are no districts, I did research on this, that I could find that could even understand the discussion. The most they ever do is they'll request the signing of an NDA to lock them into not sharing that information. That itself is pretty rare in the state, from what I can gather. This does not reveal or cause to reveal directly any student information. It is not a violation of FERPA, and if it were, it would be a violation of FERPA in almost every district in the state. So I don't think the concern is a valid one.
Any other comments before we move to a vote?
Yes, I do have one comment. I guess if the concern were whether this were run by, and I don't necessarily disagree that this should have been run by our council. However, we've been having this discussion now for 3 months, and the motion that Mr. Franchese put forward has been on the table now and submitted and in discussion for quite some time, so I'm quite surprised that it wasn't run by our council and that we didn't receive feedback at this point. So at this point, I am satisfied with the research and time that this board has put into this, and I think we need to move on.
Any other comments? All those in favor?
Well, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
Laurel, yes.
Yeah, I guess that I am a little bit reluctant to pass this without having the council weigh in on it, and
The council?
the legal counsel, I'm sorry, weigh in on it. And I worry that we are opening ourselves up, even though everything seems to make sense and it's common sense, and 163 other districts are doing this with some similar formula or an NDA. I think that it would be prudent for us to double check to make sure that council has seen it, our legal counsel has seen it. So that would only be my point on this. I don't disagree with this motion at all, but I do feel like we just need to be certain that it's not going to open us up to any sort of trouble.
For the record, under the motion, under the mechanism from Robert's rules that we're employing here, if this fails, then the original motion, which I'm told was way too broad, is what's in force. It doesn't take away that motion unless we pass this one.
Okay, I'm going to move this to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, discussion and possible action on the elementary school garden. Mr. Reese, do you want to?
So you have a proposal in your packet. It's probably a little too much detail, but it talks about that behind the elementary school, that one of our wonderful parents has provided a plan for putting together a garden back there. It is a nice spot for this, and they are really committed and excited to do it, to have the students involved in it. I don't know, because it's not a permanent change to any building, I don't know that you need to approve it, but anytime we have something that you might see and somebody might say, well, what is that? We certainly want you to be aware of it. So you're welcome to approve it. I don't know that you need to. It's very exciting to have. The kids, I'm sure, will enjoy having the opportunity. And the parent has kind of already kind of went out and done some fundraising or looked for some donations for it, so it's kind of a nice thing to do. We're very appreciative.
Any questions on the garden? Tracy?
Is this going to be wheelchair accessible? I mean, the lawn is flat, but it's a lawn.
So there is not a sidewalk that goes right up to the garden. However, there's a sidewalk within a few feet. So I think the answer is yes, but I just don't want to misstate anything, that it's not, there's no sidewalk right up to the garden, so. But it is a fairly flat area, and it's right there. You can see the sidewalk in the picture.
I'm looking into the audience, and Meg Peterson, the principal from the elementary school, is nodding her head. So the greenhouse with tables and benches would be, and probably the work tables as well, because they would be able to get a wheelchair under there. But that's a great question, and I guess we could ask to make sure that the height requirements on those are appropriately done. Any other questions?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
The parent has a note in here. It says the second year, add 2 raised garden beds that are accessible for folks who can't get down to the ground with rain barrels, ADA complying, with 4 monarch pollinator beds and with rain barrels. So I think it's a would be next year. If it's not completely accessible this year, there would be some
Thank you,
accessibility.
Kara. Does that help you, Tracy?
I think it's a great idea.
Oh, yeah.
Was also part of your question, the turf in terms of how they, I know it's flat. But it's also the maneuverability of a wheelchair, so the turf has to actually be wheelchair-friendly, for lack of a better term, because if you have a very high turf, it's gonna be really difficult for a wheelchair to maneuver through that. So that would be a good piece of information to have.
And I would agree, since that is like the tier 2, it seems like that they're gonna plan that for next year. Why don't we relay that to them for their future plans to kind of keep that in mind? You know, we are talking right now, we're in April, school gets out in June, so I think a lot of this would probably be on year 2. But, okay, can I have a motion to approve the elementary school garden?
So moved.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Abstain? Fantastic. Congratulations to the elementary school on your new garden. Discussion and possible action on the health food certificate, healthy food options. Mr. Reese, do you want to speak to that before the motion?
So in your packet, you have, I separated them out. When policy and instruction looked at the healthy food certificate, or healthy food option and the healthy food exemptions, they chose what you see that's been separated out in your packet, which looks like this. Right, there you go. So the first motion would be, if you accept policy and instructions recommendation, would be the motion that says motion : healthy food option. And this is essentially where we are currently in terms of what we did last year. So we tried to make it very simple, very easy to read.
Okay, you're talking item B, this one,
Yes.
correct?
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna read the motion, and then, I'll ask for a second, and then we'll open it for discussion, okay? Motion is healthy food option pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 10-215F. The East Haddam Board of Education certifies that all food items offered for the sale to students in the schools under its jurisdiction and not exempted from the Connecticut nutrition standards published by the Connecticut State Department of Education will comply with the Connecticut nutrition standards during the period of July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. This certification shall include all food offered for sale to students separately from reimbursable meals at all times and from all sources, including but not limited to school stores, vending machines, school cafeterias, culinary programs, and any fundraising activities on the school premises sponsored by the school or by non-school organizations and groups. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Fantastic.
So the next item is food exemptions, and this essentially keeps our reimbursement the same. It's what we have currently, but it says that at times, 30 minutes after the official day, if the boosters for the basketball team want to sell things that do not meet the requirements that we just talked about, that they're allowed to do that, or fundraisers, as long as it's at 30 minutes after the school day. But in order to do that, we have to pass the motion, which is item C under new business.
Food exemptions. The East Haddam Board of Education will allow the sale sale to students of food items that do not meet Connecticut nutrition standards and beverages not listed in section 10-221Q of the Connecticut General Statutes, provided that the following conditions are met. 1, the sale is in connection with an event occurring after the regular school day or on the weekend. 2, the sale is at the location of the event. And 3, the food and beverage items are not sold from a vending machine or school store. An event is an occurrence that involves more than just a regular scheduled practice, meeting, or extracurricular activity. For example, soccer games, school plays, interscholastic debates are events, but soccer practices, play rehearsals, and debate team meetings are not. The regular school day is the period from midnight before to 30 minutes after the official school day. Location means where the event is being held. May I get a second?
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Abstain? Move forward. All right, so this is a wonderful thing. Discussion and possible action on high school graduation date. Mr. Reese.
So we are fortunate that we can call June 15th high school graduation, if you choose to accept that date. If we follow our normal protocol of what we've done in the past, that makes the middle school promotion ceremony on June 14th. June 15th is the last day of school because we are adding 2 days per the inclement weather days we had experienced over the winter. So if you would like, you may certainly approve June 15th as a graduation date. And as I understand it, that works for the graduation folks as well. So, graduation party people.
Can I get a motion to set the date for the high school graduation being June 15th, 2023?
I move that we set graduation as the June 15th date just specified.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I have a question. I wonder where the location for the graduation will be.
So the high school is planning to have the graduation up here in front of the school. Apparently that was done traditionally years ago, and they're looking to spruce it up there. There's some, if you'd like some more information about that, we do have some more information. They actually did it a number of years ago, and I understand Mr. Eckert talked with Mr. Peacock about the idea, and gave him some of the details around it, so he might be able to add some more clarity on that as well.
Brian, is there any hope that we can get some of the front of the building there power washed before the ceremony?
So they are working with Mr. Angersola to clean up the front and try to get some of that looking prettier. So I'm trying to remember the power wash conversation, if that was part of that. I know there's a mulch conversation. I gave away my slides.
Brian, what was the reason for not having it in the courtyard where it was just prior to COVID rather than in the parking lot? Can you come up so we can hear you at a mic? Or wherever, just to a microphone, that's all.
So the question about using the courtyard is really based upon, it's a limiting area, And when you do it up front, the area is much larger. And it's actually much better. It kind of creates an amphitheater in the front. I remember, I'm sure you were at many of them, 2007 and back. It creates a nice area. What I like about the front compared to the courtyard is if somebody's just a little bit late, even a minute late, in the front, you can just kind of ease in the back and nobody notices. In the courtyard, you walk past the chorus, you walk past all the students, the speakers, and it's really uncomfortable. And also the courtyard doesn't really give those spaces for maybe the 10, 12-year-olds that are a little bit active that don't necessarily want to sit through a 2-hour ceremony. They can kind of be on the edges but still be part of the ceremony. And also, depending on the time of day, it's actually much nicer in front, the way the sun comes in, versus in the courtyard, which can kind of heat up, and it's not so pleasant. And lastly, the courtyard grass right now is kind of a mess. And so the front, once they spruce it up, I think is a far better solution.
Anybody else have any questions on the location of graduation? I guess my only question or comment would be that we have this beautiful courtyard, and I think that we need to take care of it, so that it can be used for other events. The poor soil or poor grass, is tough. But I also understand, the one nice thing on here is a lot of the graduates will be wearing heels, and they don't sink into the ground, so, okay.
While Mr. Peacock is up there, can I just ask a question about the middle school? So last year, I think you can remember that there was an issue with the microphone cable, and several people were having to sort of put their hands down and hold it in place so that people could talk, and I just wanted to know if that's been taken care of so that the ceremony can go smoothly.
We're not talking about that mess last year. That's done. However, I can
so
tell
it's
you,
been fixed?
I
That
can
never
tell you that a
happened?
week after whatever incident you might be referring to, brand new equipment was purchased, has been tested at many events, and whatever you're referring to won't happen again.
Wonderful news, thank you.
Oh, that was bad. That was
Okay,
bad.
we have a motion on the floor.
Sorry, it
that's-
was so awful.
It wasn't on?
No,
Okay,
no one
there's-
heard you.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's a motion on the floor. Let's take a vote for the high school graduation date of June 15th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. But we have to move it first. Oh, we
We
did?
did, yeah.
Anybody opposed? Fantastic. Okay, discussion on the NEMBA signature grant for the trail. Mr. Reese, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, this is just an exciting expansion of our trails being supported by a grant through NEMBA. They were very supportive of us building that bike trail. From what I hear, from inside and outside, it's pretty much one of the best trail facilities around here. And so they have once again come through with a $5,400 grant to support the trail development. Now, that money goes pretty far because we have wonderful people in town who have been donating anytime they get lumber that works really well for that kind of construction. They've been donating to us, and there are a number of volunteers who have been donating their time to build this. So literally, this comes down to screws and nails and a few other items that help us do the construction. So it goes really, really far. So.
Any questions? Okay, I just have more of a technical, because I'm kind of filling in here. It says discussion on, but it does not say possible action. We do need to approve this, but this is a special meeting, so can we still do that since it's listed under business? Sure.
Since receiving the grant, one thing to clarify is the money is not coming into our accounts. It's going to stay with NEMA. It will be managed by NEMA and their secretary.
Okay,
So I really,
we don't
in
need to.
terms of policy, I don't think you need to approve the grant, which is what I said at the subcommittee meeting.
Okay, perfect. All right, perfect. All right, I just wanted to make sure, I wasn't sure exactly where the money was being moved to, so,
Originally, so I was mistaken. I thought they were going to give us a $5,400
Right.
check. They said, spend $5,400, we're going to reimburse you for all of it.
okay. All right. Thank you for the clarification. Any other questions on the trails? No? All right, fantastic. Discussion on the innovative learning environment bids. We have two to review. One is the East Haddam Elementary School furniture. We'll start with that one, and then we'll move on to the weight room. Mr. Reese?
So in terms of the bid that, the bid winner is the Insalco out of Wallingford. They were the lowest price that met all of the bid requirements.
And this was reviewed at Business and Planning as well. Does anybody have any questions on those? Okay. And the high school weight room, do you want to discuss
So
that?
very similar, the quality expectations and the price. The best option was BSN Sports, which is highlighted for you, I believe. And so that is the bid winner of this process. And again, these are both capital expenditures in our innovative learning environments to try to make sure we're staying up to where we need to be, so.
Exactly, and as they're not out of our operating budget, there's no money that's coming out of our operating, it's under the town one. Okay, discussion and possible action on the ADA softball field seating area.
All right, so you have in your packet essentially a plan, and we would like you to, at some point, approve this plan in concept. It provides for, where right now, if you go to watch a softball game, you either go down on the field or you sit on the parking lot. And I understand that's actually popular to sit on the parking lot. This would build a structure that would allow a wheelchair and a number of others to sit off the parking lot and to enjoy the game in a safe manner. So it's part of our the ADA issue that we were the state made us aware of a couple of years ago that they would like us to fix. It's on the 25 or 26 plan to actually get it done. We are still waiting for an exact cost, but we wanted to get to you what the plan would look like to go forward. So.
Any questions on the ADA plan?
I was just curious, what is the height of the structure?
So, if you look at the back page, you can see where it talks about the sloping line is the existing grade.
I think she can't read the,
It looks like it's about 3 feet. You can see the grade, the tiny little numbers go 326, 325, 324, maybe it's 4 feet, 323 at the highest.
Brian, maybe you can help us, which committee is going to be overseeing this project and
So,
more details on who did the drawing and everything?
so right now, this is Business and Planning has been, looked at these plans a few weeks ago. So that's where this is coming from. We don't know the size. It's possible that if the price comes back significantly high, like $500,000, if that were to happen. It's possible the town would choose to push this over to the CIP in the off chance that there might be the opportunity to get grants or something for it. But right now, we are complying. This was done through our architects, Jakunski and Humes, who have been helping us along the way with the other projects. They were part of the high school roof, the elementary parking lot. They've been helping us get through this process as well. But the reason we're bringing a plan to you is to share with you, because we are reporting back to the state compliance group that we are continuing to work on a plan to meet their expectations for ADA accessibility.
Any other comments? Okay. Do you need a motion to move forward with this for your state records?
Yes.
I move we approve the board, or excuse me, approve the site plan as indicated.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion?
I'd like to see a little bit more information on the plans, as we're going through this process. It's just not 100% clear to me how many people are actually going to be accommodated on this platform, and sort of how the entire process is going to move forward. So I'd like to see a little bit more information as we're going through the process.
Any other comments?
When we had the presentation at Business and Planning, I took my notes out of my notebook. I'm pretty sure it's the size of a standard parking space, if that helps with your size-wise. And if you look at section 1 on the back page, and you kind of follow where it says existing grade, but there's a vertical line right there with the 4-0. It's 4 feet. The front would be the front pillar in the existing grade would be 4 feet out of the ground.
I think what I'm concerned about is if we can only accommodate 1 or 2 people in wheelchairs, if it's this dimension. That's what I'm a little concerned about, because they're not going to be coming alone. They're going to be coming with their family. You're not going to have them sit in one section and separate them from their families. So I just want to make sure we're keeping all of that in mind.
It says 20 by 10 on the front. It's really small to read, but that's what the size of the space would be. I'm not an expert on wheelchairs. I'm not going to pretend to be, but it says it's a 20 by 10 foot platform.
Brian, in your conversations, what is the ADA requirement for the number of seatings that we need to accommodate?
So I don't have an exact answer to that question. What I can tell you about is the process. So they asked us to put seating in place. And the architect went back to the state and said, here's what we think. And at one point it was 2 platforms, and he said, well, if it's this size, if it's right here, if it's this location, does this size work? And the state said yes. So that's the process that was used. It's kind of iterative. I don't have a specific, they said, 3 wheelchairs and several family members. And the way it was presented, and I couldn't find the 10 by 20, thank you, Ms. Thompson, for finding that, when you asked about it, was that chances are it's going to be a space where a number of people are going to be there, and that there would just be there may be a couple of wheelchairs as well, but that it's a sizable space. This is a plan. Yes, we said we would approve this plan, but we're we're in the position of trying to find out what the funding's going to be. We're early in this process. We just want to continue to making steps forward. So, to your point, you'd like more information. I think we need to continue to move forward, and more information should be part of that. So absolutely.
All those in favor of approving the site drawing for the ADA softball field?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No one's abstained? Okay, motion passes. Okay, discussion and possible action on the middle school LED light proposal.
So I may ask Mr. Angersola to bail me out on this one, but here's the general. So when they put the light bulbs in the middle school in 2007, the people at the time put some wonderful new technology in. 5 years down the road, after they did that, 10 years down the road, they realized that technology didn't work as well as they would like, and so it's essentially been discontinued. So this group called Energy Resources works with Eversource, and what they do is they work with Eversource to maintain our electric bill to stay the same, but through a grant process, we keep paying the electric bill, but instead of some of it going to electricity, the savings from converting to LED, which they work to get it done through grants, the whole building, they essentially trade off the payments for that within the Eversource bill. It's not a separate bill for the savings, and they stretch it out and they do a process. So what do you get? As a board, your entire middle school lighting gets replaced with up-to-date LEDs, which are much more efficient, energy-wise and cost-wise, and you don't see, you're not supposed to see any change to your electric bill. That's part of the grant system for a number of years. It could be 4 years, depending on the cost of the lights. It could be 5 years. Once the grant is done, then we see savings in our electric bill. Mr. Angersola, did I miss anything? Because I'm trying to get us through it. And when I say all LED lights, that's okay. So he supported all the lights. So I thought I saw expression when I said all the lights. So does that make sense?
Yes. Any questions on that?
Yes, I have a question. What is the time frame for the turnaround to have all the lights replaced by?
So they believe they can get this done in the summer. With that being said, so they usually come in 2 to 3 weeks and they're done. They're very fast, having done this before. With that being said, the next step of this is getting Eversource to sign on the dotted line that they're willing to do it and the grants and stuff. So we are waiting to hear. We have not heard that, but we have no reason to think that it's not going to go through as it has in the past. We did this at the elementary school maybe 7 years ago.
Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the middle school LED light proposal as submitted?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No abstentions? Fantastic. Okay, acceptance of the consent agendas, items 1 through 8. I'm just going to read them off. To approve policy number 7230, new construction design and process as a second reading. Number 2, to approve the warrant of November 2022. To approve the warrant of December 2022. To approve the warrant of January 2023. To approve the warrant of February 2023. To approve the high school field trip to New York City, New York, class of 2023, senior trip. to approve the middle school field trip to Ludlow High School and Six Flags, Massachusetts. It's gonna be the 6th to 8th grade jazz band, May 5th, 2023. And acceptance of the following resignations. Melissa Tarente, middle school reading and language arts specialist, and Janine Massafero, high school special education. Is there a motion to accept agenda items, consent agenda items 1 through 8?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, fantastic. Seeing there's no other business, make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:14. Thank you, everyone, for coming.